Hello, and welcome to our video series on negotiation. This is the first lesson, and we will ensure that you have a familiarity with the structure or the framework of a negotiation. We will ensure that you understand the components or stages of a successful negotiation. Let's begin with a definition of negotiation. Negotiation is communication for the purpose of coming to agreement. If you think about it, we're negotiating all the time. We negotiate in all walks of life. Throughout the day, we communicate with other people with the purpose in mind of coming to agreement. Whether it's discussing where we're going for lunch or dinner, whether it's buying or selling, or communicating with clients or coworkers, negotiation is ever present throughout our day. It makes sense for us to be equipped with skills and tools to be effective at our negotiations and to understand the overall framework or the process that negotiations naturally take. The first part of this framework, it's your set of goals. Think about your negotiation objectives and then ask why to uncover the goals. And before entering a negotiation, it's paramount that you have clarity concerning your goals. Your goals will guide your behavior in the negotiation, and techniques which support achieving your goals are candidates for you to employ in the negotiation. But actions that move you away from achieving your goals should be avoided. So begin by identifying your goals. It's a good practice to put these in writing. If there is a team involved in the negotiation, then written goals are essential so that you can be certain that clarity is achieved among your team. When you determine your goals, establish your terms that you consider necessary for agreement. Along with each term, you determine your requirements. This can take the form of an acceptable range. It's paramount that you know what you're shooting for and what an acceptable agreement will look like. You'll want to know not only what you're shooting for, but also the least that you'll take and still consider the deal to be worthwhile. So in summary, the first part of the negotiation framework, it's your set of goals. Therefore, identifying your goals and establishing your terms of agreement comprise the first step in approaching negotiation. The second part of the negotiation framework is understanding the other party. The other party also has goals, and it's useful for you to be able to estimate or anticipate what these goals are. One way to find that out is through research, another is through direct communication with the other party. The greater clarity that you can gain on what the goals of the other party are, the better you'll be able to anticipate what they'll be able to ask, what they may ask for, and your ability to meet their goals or not. In addition, they may have a clear range of satisfaction for each of those goals. In an understanding what they're shooting for and what their needs are, you'll be able to know how to respond. They may also have a negotiating approach, and it's useful if you do some research. Perhaps someone else has negotiated with this party before. You can gain some insights and ideas about what is the other party like. What is their approach to a negotiation? If you have a sense of their approach, you can find out the tactics that the other party is likely to employ in the negotiation. And then you can be ready with those tactics. You can be ready to respond, or you can be aware of what are the counter tactics that correspond to each of the tactics that the other party is likely to employ. And if you're ready with counters, you'll be able to answer and avoid being taken advantage of. What else do you want to know about the other party? In addition to their goals and their possible negotiating approaches, a third thing is it's useful to understand what are their possible concessions. A way to think about this is to think about the things that you would benefit from. What concessions might you ask for that they may be able to offer? Feel free to be creative here. There may be concessions that they could make that would not be costly for them to offer to you, but could be very valuable for you. In that instance, it's very important to be aware not only of the other party's goals, but the other party's possible concessions. So we've discussed the first and second areas of the negotiation framework. The first one was to be clear about your goals, and the second was to know about the other party and have insight as to that. The third area is the preparation. When it comes to preparing for the negotiation, it's useful to have a number of things built up in advance. One of those things would be arguments to support your goals. You want to have arguments that support your goals so that you have the ability to press for your goals to be met. A second area is a concession plan, so that you're aware of concessions that you can make and how will you make those concessions. Even though you have a range of satisfaction, you don't want to move directly from the top of your range to the bottom of your range. If the other party is not able to agree to the outcome that's most favorable to you, or to whatever your starting point may have been, and it's necessary for you to make a concession to a less favorable position than the most favorable, that doesn't mean that you want to move to the least favorable in one large step, because you still want to find and discover the best deal possible. It's important for you to have a concession plan that allows you to make smaller incremental concessions in order to discover if they're able to agree to something. Even if it's not agreement to your ideal, it's the agreement to something that's more favorable to you. There's no reason to make a larger concession that is necessary. There's more to the preparation phase as well, and this includes responses to your weaknesses. It's important to assess what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of your side of the negotiation, and what are the strengths and weaknesses of the other side of the negotiation. Remember, the other party's strengths may constitute weaknesses for you, where their weaknesses may constitute strengths for you, and vice versa. What we need to do is to prepare responses to our weaknesses. We don't know if those weaknesses will be raised by the other party, but if they are, we don't want them to have power over us. We don't want to be exploited due to having weaknesses. Therefore, it's important to have, I would suggest, at least 3 responses for each of our weaknesses that we identify. So in your preparation phase, you are involved in identifying strengths and weaknesses, creating a set of arguments to argue for your goals, having a concession plan, and having responses to your weaknesses. And in doing so, you now have covered the third aspect of the framework, which is preparation. The fourth aspect is execution. And in execution of the negotiation, one of the first things you'll be doing is building rapport. Oftentimes, rapport is built through the making and accepting of small offers. When you arrive at their office or they arrive at yours, this could be as simple as offering a beverage such as coffee or water to drink. If you're going to their turf and they make that offer, you naturally should accept it. If you don't drink coffee, just have a water. It can't hurt to have that handy. Or if they're offering you something else and you'd prefer it, say yes to that. But at the very least, say yes to a glass of water, because it makes sense as a rapport builder. This creates some momentum to go into the negotiation. During the negotiation, there are other things that you'll want to be doing as well, and these will include identifying the tactics that the other party uses. It may just be their natural approach to negotiation. They may not even know that the tactic that they're using has a particular name. But you've been trained in negotiation, you have a toolbox, you know what the tactics are, and therefore every behavior being exhibited by the other party is in fact a negotiating tactic. If you are able to name that tactic, identify and name it in your own mind, then you can cross-reference what are the counter tactics for this tactic. Once you know the tactic the other party is using, you can identify what the counter tactics are and decide what would make your negotiation the most effective. What would be the most effective counter tactic to employ in response? Once they have made an approach or employed a tactic, it's going to be your turn to respond. It just makes common sense that you should respond using a counter tactic that corresponds to the tactic that they've used. So this is the value in the execution of the negotiation, of identifying the tactics by name in your mind, and then the ability to consider and weigh which of the counter tactics is the most appropriate in any given situation. What else do we look at in this phase of execution of the negotiation? That would be to feel your emotion. By feeling the emotion, by being aware of your emotions, this can help you to decipher the situation. It can help you actually to identify what we talked about a few moments ago, which is the tactic that the other party is using. This is especially true when, for example, the other party is using a tactic such as intimidation. But it's not only that. And so your own emotions can help you to read the situation and to decipher what's happening. Or maybe you're experiencing emotions because you're becoming uncomfortable with what the other party is suggesting. Maybe they're suggesting something that would be unethical. Well, it gives you a chance to call that out. It gives you a chance to say, well, I wouldn't want to do anything unethical. Well, I wouldn't be comfortable doing this particular thing. It gives you a chance to paraphrase what they're saying, but also more than just paraphrase it, label it as well. This allows them to either confirm or correct your understanding of what they're actually proposing, and also allows you then to set limits. So what we looked at here in this fourth section of the negotiating framework is the execution of the negotiation. And in that execution, we took a look at a couple of pieces that are very important. And a final piece in this area is guarding your relationship. Throughout the negotiation, it's very important to continue to guard the relationship because you want the relationship with the other party to be strengthened by the negotiation exercise. If the negotiation culminates in agreement, you'll be working with that party to implement the agreement. The relationship's very important. If you don't come to an agreement, the door may still be open for this to occur in the future. You don't want to have the relationship be damaged by a negotiation, even if the negotiation doesn't result in agreement. And therefore, it's important to guard the relationship along the way. Think about the importance of the relationship and even state the importance of a relationship. Some of the ways that a relationship can be guarded is by utilizing phrases that speak to mutual benefit, that speak to the desire for a win-win. To talk about the idea that we'd like to find something that will work for both parties. We'd like something that would be favorable for both parties. We want to come to an agreement that would be fair for both parties. Employing any of these phrases helps to guard the relationship. Now, we're talking about the framework of a negotiation, which has 5 parts. Being clear about your goals, having insight into the other party, planning for the negotiation, the execution of the negotiation, and now the 5th element of the negotiation framework, which is your list of negotiating tactics. I call it your toolbox. You possess an ever-expanding toolbox of negotiating tactics that you can utilize in a negotiation. You are constantly learning from your reading, from seminars, from this video series, from all sources. You're learning, and also through your own practice, negotiation tools. And these are things that you want to be having on a physical list that you maintain, so that you have a list of tactics. And as part of your preparation to go into negotiation, you're able to assemble a tactical plan by going to your list of tactics and finding out which of these tactics may be useful to you in the negotiation. Similarly, within the execution of the negotiation, you're drawing on that. If you don't yet have a physical list, I encourage you to set aside a particular notebook that you can list negotiating tactics, and that you can begin to accumulate this toolbox and hone and improve these skills as you go. Well, in this first lesson, we've looked at the 5 elements of the negotiation framework, and utilizing this negotiation framework helps you to navigate the negotiation. It helps you to understand where in the negotiation process you are, which phase that you're in, and it ensures that you do not neglect any of the important parts of a negotiation. Well, there's a lot more to learn, but let's begin by making sure that you have the negotiation framework. Thanks for joining me for this lesson on negotiation, and we'll see you in the next session.